This is Joe,
Michelle,
Melissa,
and Shannon
with More Than a Sniff, where we talk about everything dog.
from training to nutrition,
from behavior modification to grooming.
from vet visits to dog parks.
From getting to know us to having guests. Today we're going to talk about... Hey, Rick.
Hey, Joe.
Are you ready to talk about your journey with Miss Maggie?
What am I ready to talk about?
Maggie and her job?
I am. What are we doing? Are we recording this and then it's a podcast, just an audio podcast?
Yeah. So it will play. We will post it next Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I don't know what we're doing, so you just start.
Great. I have Melissa and Michelle and Shannon, who I believe you know, all of them.
Well, yes, I think I do.
We're going to our series this time is on dogs with jobs. And we want to talk a little bit about your journey with Maggie and the job that she does as a therapy dog and kind of what you get out of it and what you feel that she gets out of it. So first of all, tell us a little bit about Maggie.
Okay. So Maggie was born with dwarfism. She is an English cream golden retriever. And a friend and I bought two of them together, and they both fit in each of our hands. And after about 6 or 7 months, we noticed that Walter, the brother, was growing much larger than Maggie. And so I was at some point about maybe the 8th or 9th month of her life, I took her to the vet, and they pronounced her having dwarfism. And they did a bunch of tests, and basically, she is, besides being a dwarf, she has a bad heart. And
yeah.
When she first was given some tests, it was quite severe. It's a heart murmur, and it was rated a number 4 out of 5, whatever that means. It just means it's severe.
Yep.
And she's now 4 years old, and her last test, she had a 2. So her heart has gotten stronger.
Good.
And let's see, what else? I guess, that's kind of it as far as Maggie's concerned.
And what made you decide to go into the therapy dog world with her?
Yeah, well, I'm not too sure, Joe. As may or may not be known by other people, you trained Maggie, and she's the best dog I've ever had, and apparently it has to do with training. I thought it was always just based on how strong a fence you had. But at some point in time, I believe you mentioned the possibility of working with her and others,
mm-hmm.
and other people mentioned it as well. She has just a tremendous personality. She's just a sweetheart, as pretty much all dog owners are want to say about their own animal. But she really is a special dog. And so I started looking into animal therapy. And again, I don't remember exactly how I came up with Intermountain Animal Therapy, which is I think there are 2 groups in Salt Lake, and
mm-hmm.
there's groups around the country, but animal therapy or Intermountain Animal Therapy was the one I started investigating. And for the most part, I would tell people that I'm looking into this, and everybody would say, well, Maggie will be fine for it, but you may not, because I'm somewhat of a, I think if I had been diagnosed as a kid, it would be attention deficit disorder, but I just call it active. But so we pursued that, and when I first started looking, she was only about a year old, and you have to your partner, in this case Maggie, has to be 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we waited until she was 18 months, and then we went in and we were evaluated as a team just to start to see if we made it to a second interview, and we did. And then there's a process. It took maybe 3 or 4 months, something like that. And Maggie, for the most part, was not involved because she was so well trained. Again, thanks to Joe, Joe trained me and I trained Maggie, so it worked.
Yep.
But there's a lot of work involved in understanding what you're going to run into. Not only the legal aspect of it, along if you're working in hospitals with HIPAA and privacy, patient privacy, but just different situations and how to act in them and things like that. Your original question said, what do I get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
Maggie and I were a partner team of the week a while back for Intermountain Therapy Animals, and they asked that question of me, and my answer in most simple terms is I had been a taker my entire life, and I don't think it was excessive, but I really thought about myself almost all the time, and this things have changed in my life, and I have the opportunity because of being semi-retired to give more of myself, and this is what I decided to do. I get tremendous satisfaction out of my time with, in particular, I work up. We go once a week to the children's unit up at UNI, University Neurological Institute, and the kids have basically mental health issues, be it behavior, or a lot of them are on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a stepson who has Asperger's, which is on that spectrum as well. And it just is so rewarding to go up there and see the relief and or calmness and or happy, smiling, thinking nothing but this soft little dog that they get to pet and be with in their own little thoughts.
Yeah.
So what does Maggie get out of it? I don't know. She gets just a ton of love.
Yeah.
And it's very exhausting. We went yesterday and we had to test for our biannual therapy recertification.
Uh-huh.
And that took about an hour. And then we went up to UNI for another hour, and she was just exhausted. I don't understand. Joe, you would better, and perhaps Melissa and Michelle and Shannon would too, but I don't know what it is about dogs, in my case dogs, but animals in general, and their bonding, how they do what they do. It's magical to me, but somehow an animal can relate to a person who's in stress or who is sad, or all sorts of things that I think we're discovering more and more every day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a long-winded answer.
I love it. I love it. Shannon, what questions do you have?
In your experience in doing therapy work, what is the hardest thing about that for you and Maggie?
Well, let's see. The hardest thing, I guess, is trying to relate to, and again, my experience is almost exclusively with young children, and trying to relate to them on their level, trying to engage them enough to be comfortable, but not so much that I'm taking over. Maggie is the smart end of the leash in this particular situation, and I'm there to facilitate the relationship between the child and Maggie. And sometimes that means I have to step in and set some boundaries. Some of the kids are very over aggressive in their behavior because of their situation. And you don't want to say no, but it's my, I have to advocate for Maggie first. And so on occasion that becomes difficult. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I don't want Maggie to be to take any excessive handling. So I would say, the easiest part, if you wanted to ask that question, is getting out my little red T-shirt and Maggie's red neckerchief or whatever you call it, and she knows that we're on our way up to see the kids, and she gets all excited and heads to the door. So that's the easiest part.
That's awesome. So this is Melissa here. I love when you said that you were an advocate for Maggie. I think that's awesome and sweet. So my question for you is, do you notice a difference between at-home Maggie versus work Maggie? Does anything in her demeanor change, or once she kind of is in the zone on her job?
That's an interesting question, and it makes me think that, as you asked it, I think to myself, how does she act differently? And you phrased it, in the zone. She knows that we're not going. Maggie and I roughhouse. She has learned how to bite down to just a certain level on my fingers, and I tug around while she's biting me, in essence. And she does not do any of that, and doesn't exhibit any wanting to play tug of war, to jump up and down. So I think that the difference is that she knows that it's a different environment. It's a calmer environment. She's there for them, and not necessarily to be played with, but rather to be helpful toward. So I guess I would think that that's a difference that is noticeable.
Nice. Hey, Rick, it's Michelle.
Hi.
Do you have any advice? We all the time get people that think that their dog's going to be a great fit for therapy, and we all know that not every dog is going to be fit for that. Maggie was an obvious choice. But do you have any advice for anybody else who is looking into getting into therapy work?
Well, I guess the first advice is to get opinions, and I think you four would be a front line for saying, in whatever kindness you can, no way, or yes, this dog probably does have the temperament. I think would be the attribute that one would look for. But as far as, for me initially. I want to do something for somebody else, and I'll be able to use my dog to be a good person. And there is that ego building part of it. But I also had to give some long, serious thoughts, particularly as the classes went on, and it became, it was not a chore, but it was definitely a lot of homework, commitment on my part. These because it's relatively short. It's too many times. They do come back on, months later. They might have to come back for a revisit. But if you're going to do this and you're going to be going to a facility on a weekly basis or semi-weekly, what have you, you have to commit to doing that. It's not just fun and games for you. People depend on you, particularly long-term patients or, patients in long-term care. It's a special time for them. So be aware of what you're getting into. And obviously you have to go up and they do that preliminary evaluation where they watch your dog and they watch you as an individual and see how you relate to your dog and are you easygoing enough to be able to talk to different people and empathize, but rather probably more sympathize, because a lot of people have conditions that I don't have. So you just have to be a kind, caring, giving person, I think.
So Rick,
Other questions?
This is Joe again. What I found and the joy that I found with you and Maggie is the commitment that you gave to her from the get-go. Finding out that she had dwarfism and she's got her heart thing going on, and I think that as you headed into the therapy dog world, it made sense. It made sense for both of you. And Maggie definitely, just because she's got dwarfism doesn't mean that she doesn't want to work and she doesn't want to give and she doesn't want to do things. She is a little working dog. And she takes every environment that she's in differently. And that's something that I've noticed about her. And it's something that I noticed about you is that you can roll with it. But she really assesses where she's at and who she's with, from a dog to dog situation to dog to people situation. And, I think sometimes we can get caught up in, our dog can't do this because, they've got dwarfism or they've got a heart problem or they've got thyroid or, whatever that is. It just, you never felt sorry for Maggie. You kept giving her everything that she needed to be as a dog to be successful. And I commend you for that. I think that, you guys are just a fantastic team. I think that you give Maggie the job that she needs, but you also let her be a dog and release and bite and chew and carry on and talk and have her personality as well. And I think that's sometimes hard for people to do, where they want to create a therapy dog. But instead of creating a therapy dog in Maggie, you went with her to where she is really successful in everything that she does.
Well, I appreciate that compliment, and I try to, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from somebody at your end about when we can sign up for Tricks and Target.
I know, we're building it for sure.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, it'll be great. She'll love that too.
So I'm sure you'll keep me posted as that comes along. Other than that, I don't know what else I could add. If you have more questions, I can surely try and answer them. I would emphasize, greatly emphasize the reward that, we go back to one of the questions that said, what do I get out of it? If you have the time and the temperament, and your dog does as well, or your animal, I've never had more rewarding experiences in my life, and I'm an old guy, so I've had a few chances to see other things, and so I appreciate the fact that you were so good with us in initial training and helped push us in this direction. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for constantly training and working with Maggie. It's a journey that you go on, and you've taken this journey, and I love it. So thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Well, thank you, women, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.